How about now? Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me now? I can hear myself now, so let's fix that. All right, so now that I can't hear myself anymore, which is a good thing, I guess. Let's get rolling. Let's give it about a minute or two. I know the fact that these things are live and not posted right on our YouTube channel makes it a bit difficult sometimes to jump in. So, yeah, echo should be going now, guys. If not, let me know. But that was me listening to myself, talking to myself while talking to you. Complicated. But should be going now, so just give me a thumbs up on that. Yep, all good, okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna give it 2 minutes and then we're gonna roll in. All right, so we'll start off. If anybody's got a question they want answered in those 2 minutes, shoot it out. No, I was just showing off the new CoinMetro merch. You see, let me see what's good. A little embroidered little jacket. It's actually not that warm here either. I don't know. I'm not cold though, generally speaking. Probably gonna start sweating under these lights. So get ready for that. What's my favorite color? I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. Black goes with everything, not really a color though. White goes with everything, also not a color. Yeah, I guess, I don't honestly know if I have a, I like purple. I guess that's kind of obvious. Yeah, purple's a decent color. Blue's all right. Red's okay too, but you mix them together, man, and you get purple, and it's amazing. Yeah, I think Bjorn, I think I upset him, and he's taking a week off. That's good. Everybody needs a week off, you know. Okay, yeah, give a thumbs up the video, guys. Remember whatever I said the last couple weeks. Just hit the thumbs up button. I mean, it's like right there on the screen. Like you really just have to move your mouse a couple inches, a couple centimeters, you're good to go. All right, cool. So I'm gonna get started, and well, if you have a question, obviously you can leave it here. I'll come back and answer it later. I think I answered the one that shot up here. CSD coming along. Okay, so I'm gonna answer that CSD question and a glimpse of the marketplace when we get back into the AMA, okay? Let's give it about 15 minutes. All right, so if you've never joined us here before, my name's Kevin MURCKO. I'm CEO here at CoinMetro. We like to do this every week. We call it This Week in Crypto. Essentially, we have 4 parts to this show. Part number 1 is market news. I get 10 pieces of market news thrown into a Google Doc that I get to read and then comment on. Usually, I don't even read the articles, just so you know. But what I do, though I've usually heard about the news stories, to be honest, but I give a comment based on the subject of the news. If it's usually takes about a minute. If it's Binance or something else that might trigger me, or I just had a really long Friday, then it might take 2 or 3 minutes on each subject, or at least a few of them. But more or less 15 minutes we breeze through there. Then we have Kevin Explains Crypto. I get a term or a topic or something thrown at me that usually relates to crypto, and I go ahead and define what it is as best I can. Sometimes I usually do okay, I think. There's been a couple weeks there where, yeah, a do-over might have been what would have done some justice. Then we go into live Q&A. That's here on YouTube. You have a question, post it now, post it later, post it whenever. I'll scroll back up, answer those questions once I get through the first part of the show. And then if we have any Reddit questions from last week, I'll answer those as well. I'm pretty sure we have at least 1 or 2 hanging around, so I'll answer those in between answering questions live. So bear with me, and we'll jump right in here to the news. Okay, so number 1 on a list of 10, guys, Kraken subsidiary scores license from UK regulator opening futures platform to institutional clients. So actually what happened here, so Kraken bought a licensed entity, a company that had a license to trade futures contracts in the UK. Crypto something or other. I don't remember the name. Somebody out there will know what the name is. I'm sure you guys know what the name is. You're probably more up to date on this than I am. But what they did was, with that same entity, they applied to the FCA to extend that license to become an MTF. Why become an MTF? Well, they're already into futures. I think now they want to look to offer options, right? So there's many things that you can trade under an MTF. Basically, a multilateral trading facility license in the EU and the UK allows you to trade any transferable security. Options being one of them. And Kraken's looking to get into the options market and wanted to be fully licensed to do so. MTF license. So on our side, for example, in that sandbox in Montenegro, we're talking about an MTF sandbox license, but specifically to trade specific types of tokenized securities, mainly in the secondary and primary market, which are equities, bonds, convertible bonds, etc. So very different business, even though under that same license. Number 2 on a list of 10, Philippine SEC warns against crypto schemes. Well, that's their job, so I guess no news there. But look, the Security Exchange Commissions all over the world, whether they're called the SEC or the FCA or whatever the name is, CMA, that's basically the majority of their job, is to make sure that people don't get fleeced, don't lose their money. So they don't just warn about crypto scams, though obviously lots of the financial related scams nowadays somehow tie into crypto. Because since it's in the news, obviously scam artists watch the news, they try to figure out what people are listening to, what they're looking at, and they try to, use those same things to take people's money. So SEC doing their job in the Philippines, that's great. Hopefully they do their job and actually only oust scams, and they're not just simply saying that crypto is a scam, which many regulators have done in the past, some regulators still do. We're doing all we can to make sure that that changes in the future. Number 3 on a list of 10, biggest corporations skeptical on introducing crypto payment option. Biggest corporations. Yeah, I would be kind of skeptical too. Why? Well, most crypto isn't built for a payment rail, right? Payment rails need to be fast, scalable, robust, and to a certain extent, because of regulation, they need to be centralized. Why? Well, what happens when a payment is made incorrectly? What happened when there's fraud? What happened when somebody breaks into someone's wallet, uses someone's stolen credit card, etc.? Well, if it's on blockchain, what do? Well, not much, right? So I think that there's a need for kind of a software layer. There's a need for a tier 1 layer on crypto payments that allows some sort of, let's say, centralization of power or governance over those payments. Or there has to be insurance in place. Or there has to be mechanics like MetaMask, for example, but dumbed down a whole lot so that normal people can use it, so that there's some layer of security so that when somebody's making a payment, you can basically almost 100%, almost, not quite, but almost assume that they're making the payment on their own behalf. So, like most of crypto, there's a UI UX problem. This is one of them. That's mostly a UX problem, and it needs to be solved, and it will be solved. But understand that most crypto that's out there right now, especially the big boys, aren't necessarily made, or never were really made to be, or weren't designed. They might have been made to, but they definitely weren't designed to be payment rails. They just can't support the volumes you would need to actually become a payment rail. Number 4 on a list of 10, Fourth Amendment does not protect Bitcoin data, U.S. Fifth Circuit Court rules. This one's actually kind of interesting. So I'm actually going to open this one up because I want to see exactly what the precedent they tried to set on this one is. So let's see. Fourth Amendment rights do not apply to cryptocurrency transactions data that stems from an exchange. Okay, according to the ruling of a 3-panel judge from the Fifth Circuit Court, it does not apply to Bitcoin transactions used in a crime if they stem from virtual currency exchanges. Okay, specifically, Coinbase is a financial institution, a virtual currency exchange that provides Bitcoin users with a method of transferring Bitcoin. The main difference between Coinbase and traditional banks. All right, that's a topic we don't. Okay, traditionally in America, decisions are tied to the Supreme Court. Yeah. So, basically what they're saying is, the tie-in for criminal activity kind of would kind of designate the Fourth Amendment already kind of destroyed, to be quite honest. So they're saying if the transactions are tied to criminal activity, and they talk about allegedly making payments to child pornography websites sent via Bitcoin to the web portal via a Coinbase account, that the data for those transactions is not protected under the Fourth Amendment. Well, that makes a lot of sense, because had that transaction been done through the banking system or through any other system, that data would also not be covered under the Fourth Amendment. So I wouldn't say this is so much of a new precedent. It's kind of adopting an old precedent onto new technology. So good job by the Fifth Circuit Court for making that ruling, even though it should have been a pretty easy one. Number 5 on a list of 10, world's largest pension fund, GPIF, Japan's government pension fund, for anybody that's wondering, lost the equivalent of Bitcoin's entire market cap in just 3 months. Well, right on. Way to go, advisors, right? Rock on. I mean, that sounds crazy, but I don't know what the AUM or assets under management is of the largest Japanese government pension fund, but I have to imagine it's quite large. Yeah, here we go. So they decreased in value by 11%. So losing 1.4 trillion yen, and they have 150 trillion yen in the pension fund. So that means, obviously 9 times larger. The entire AUM is 9 times larger than crypto's market cap. They lost 11%. 11% is not in traditional markets is a shitty loss. That's for sure. It's a pretty big loss. I mean, to anybody that's in crypto, I guess you tell them 11% loss and they go, and they just go back to what they were doing. Like no news here. Obviously, though, for something that probably earns, single to low double digits on a yearly basis in good years, they just lost a year, if not 2, if not maybe even 3. So that sucks for them. But it just shows how large that single pension fund is compared to the entire crypto market. We got a long ways to go, guys. Number 6 on the list of 10, Lightspeed Ventures invests $2.8 million in crypto market maker Wintermute. Wintermute, right on. All right, so Lightspeed Ventures, pretty well-known VC firm, $2.8 million. So I've been talking to a lot of crypto market makers as of late. I think the list of crypto market makers I've talked to is now in the triple digits, and the amount that I actually understand, in my understanding, actually know what they're doing, or at least have any knowledge of what market making actually is, I can count on both of my hands, and probably only on one, but maybe on 2. Man, maybe I'll be nice and say 2 hands. Probably only 1 though. So we have a long way to go to mature this market in terms of market making. Market making isn't just applying a bot that basically looks at Binance and opens an order and then sends another order to Binance. That's not market making, guys. So at the end of the day, I think it's great that there's investments into market makers. I don't know Wintermute. I actually had to look at their website literally yesterday because it came up in a conversation with somebody else. And I sent them a query. Hadn't gotten back to me yet, so I can't tell you. I don't have an opinion of Wintermute. Looking at their website, they don't give any information exactly how they make markets, what type of market making experience they really have. Website generally looks almost B2C, even though it's intended to be B2B. But I'm glad to see there's investment coming in the market making space. We need it. We need professional market makers in crypto. We need professional market makers in crypto. I'll say it one more time. We need professional market makers in crypto. We need less wash trading, less front running, and we need actual players in the market that know how to take risk, manage risk, and actually profit from making markets where someone's always on each side of the book. Running forward here, number 7 on the list of 10, US CFTC promises holistic framework in digital assets by 2024. I think the CTFC should call me on my phone, and I think we could knock that thing out by, 2020 maybe in 2 to 3 weeks. But yeah, look, the CFTC moves slow, as do most regulators. 2024, at least we have a date now, 4 years from now, right? That'll give the SEC enough time, and maybe even the CTFC, to set a ton of precedent. Well, not them, but judicial precedent will be set based on actions that they bring, I'm sure. We've already had actions, Telegram and all these other things. We now have, this news actually didn't make my news block today, which is kind of amazing. But my buddy Brock Pierce, running for president, is now officially the case has been officially cleared to be opened by the New York State Attorney General, tying Brock Pierce to Bitfinex as well as Tether. That's going to be an interesting, that will probably take 4 years. So how much you want to bet the boys at the CFTC called up the boys at the SEC and said, hey guys, how long do you think it's going to take? They were like, 3 to 5 years. I will give you 4. Like, okay, good. Then someone drew the short straw. They got 4 years and that was it. But good to know that they actually have a date on the calendar somewhere. I don't know if they're going to make that 2024, but Bitcoin will be classified as a commodity. You will need a CFTC license to trade it, 25 million net capital. That's almost a given. Hopefully, though, on let's say mid to micro to mid caps, they will be different legislation that classifies it outside of the realm of futures and commodities, but we'll see. Number 8 on the list of 10, Circle confirms freezing 100K in USDC at law enforcement's request. Yeah, guys, that's what a regulated stablecoin does. Criminal activity, frozen account. I know, look, I'm not saying I like it because you will get innocent people snared in these type of activities as well, but that's the way regulation currently works. That's the way law enforcement works. And you can say it's not the best because, well, it isn't. But unfortunately, we don't have any other, verified or trusted, or I shouldn't even say trusted, but verified or tested options out there. So until we do, that's how law enforcement or regulations work. There you go. You do something or you're accused of doing something, you may just get your assets froze. Again, this shows you why there's not much of a difference in what I would call a regulated and well-run stablecoin versus a CBDC. And so when you think about it in the future, when you have CBDCs that are issued by governments, that are backed by the government and are actually legal tender and aren't tied to accounts held by third parties that may or may not hold the legal tender that backs the actual stablecoin, why would you use a stablecoin if you have a CBDC? That's a question to be asked. Number 9 on a list of 10, Italian banking industry chose decentralization over centralization. That's great for the Italian banking industry. On the whole, I don't know. Italian banking industry definitely doesn't get as many laughs probably around the world as, Maltese banking industry. But it still gets a few. So look, decentralization is great. How much do you want to bet that decentralization here is only tied to certain aspects of any type of protocol they're going to be testing? Governance will still be centralized. I can almost guarantee you. Why? Regulators, I don't care where you are, Italy, Malta, UK, wherever, aren't really going to allow you to use decentralized governance because, well, they don't necessarily understand how that would work. And even if they did understand how it works, they need to see it in practice, and they haven't, at least not at a national, state, country level, So anyway, moving on. Number 10 on a list of 10, cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase ready stock market listing. Yep, some news in the air that they're going out maybe for an IPO. That's pretty exciting for the industry as a whole. Coinbase is a big entity. Coinbase has been around almost, since the quote-unquote beginnings of kind of, let's say, mass adoption in crypto, or the start of mass adoption in crypto. Hats off to them for being able to do this if they do it. It'll be a milestone for sure. It'll be a milestone that everybody will get hyped up about, and 3 days later nobody will give a shit about. But it's still a milestone, and it's still important to make mention of that. It is, I guess it's probably, in some people's eyes, kind of against the grain. You're trying to create a company that goes against traditional banking and traditional markets, and then you get listed in the traditional market. I get why. Coinbase wants to secure itself, wants to probably secure a ton of funding coming forth to go into institutional markets, and IPO is the way to do it. Okay, so moving on, we have Kevin Explains Crypto. So we'll get that through that real quick, and then we'll jump into live Q&A. So this week's Kevin Explains Crypto term, I guess this week, Byzantine fault tolerance. So yeah, I swear to God, I thought I did this one before, but my assistant Maris told me I didn't. But I think I did. Maybe I dreamed it, I don't know. Anyway, Byzantine fault tolerance. So the name Byzantine fault tolerance comes from something called, and I might be quoting this incorrectly, but it's like the Byzantine general problem, or Byzantine general, I think it was problem. We'll just call it a problem. The problem is I think it was written into some type of scientific paper, 80s or 90s. I think it was the 90s, early 90s. And basically what it described was, let's say you have all these Byzantine generals, they're trying to make an attack on a fortress. They have multiple troops all over the place, and they have to make sure, but they assume there's probably a traitor in the midst. So how do they pass information between each other without having the traitor pass information that may be erroneous, right? So how does that tie into distributed ledgers? Well, distributed ledgers are distributed computer systems. Each one of those little generals is a node inside of the distributed ledger. Byzantine fault tolerance tries, and I say try because there's no proven Byzantine fault tolerance yet, but it tries essentially to make sure that consensus can happen even if there's garbage in the network, even if somebody's trying to throw out some data that isn't quite accurate or may be false, whether it's for nefarious reasons or whether it's just wrong, right? So one way to do that is proof of work, right? So what Bitcoin uses, proof of work. It means that you have to do so much work in order to add data to a block, to a chain, that you're probably not going to go through all that effort just to try and persuade or push one small piece of information out there that consensus probably isn't going to pick up anyway or deal with. So Byzantine fault tolerance, that's essentially what it is. And it's a big piece of any blockchain, and it's something that yet hasn't been completely solved, but Every type of protocol and consensus mechanism is trying to solve it. So there you go, Byzantine fault tolerance. Make sure you give us a nice thumbs up here, subscribe. You can see more of these Kevin Explains Crypto videos right here on our channel. And actually, we're going to be coming out many more of these things, so stay tuned. I've been being pestered to do these videos for like 3 or 4 weeks. I think I'll get some done today, so cheers on that. Okay, so Reddit questions. Let's. I'm going to check real quick. We have one. Well, there's 2 questions in here, guys. I'm just going to breeze through, then we'll jump into Ask Me Anything. So I breeze through. This is from Robin Timmerman, our friend Robin Timmerman. I think he's one of our elite guys on Telegram. So I'm going to read through this. It says, ultimate transparency, an omnipresent CEO. Omnipresent. Weekly AMAs, CMA, CoinMetro making more visible progress than ever before, a direct line between community feedback, geez, I'm going to blush, and the team. These things are pretty much unseen in other crypto companies, and still there seems to be so much negativity in the Telegram channel as well as inactivity on social media or forums. Do you think we are overspoiled? Do you think it's because we care too much about XCM price exclusively, which is understandable, for instance, if you bought at 11 cents in the ICO? Apart from XCM rising in price, what do you think needs to happen to lift the mood or activate the community in a positive, productive way? Okay, so unwrapping this a bit. So thanks. The first paragraph was really nice, and then you had to write the second and third paragraph, but that's okay. We'll get through them. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Look, I think in any community. Well, look, I don't know what parallels you want to go about community, right? You can think of community as family. You can think community as, just a group of like-minded individuals. You can think of community as a group of people that aren't like-minded at all, that just happen to have one thing in common, right? Like wanting XCM to go to the moon, for example, right? However you define community, we have one. And we have quite, I think, a vibrant community. You're never going to have a community of people that always agree and that are always happy, giggly, and watching memes of 2 girls dance, which I've seen pop up in our Telegram every once in a while. So how do you, I don't think there's any way, to be honest, to have a community that's happy all the time, unless it's a cult, and I don't really want to be a cult leader. So I think what we can do in the future, look, keeping our social media active, doing more to push things out in social media, doing more to attract other communities into our community, all that will help bring in new people. Bringing in new people brings in kind of new vibes. Bringing in new vibes can generally neutralize anything that may be negative, right? Obviously, yeah, if you bought in at 11 cents and you've been sitting waiting for, the next pop, maybe you're just bored of waiting and you let that kind of fly on Telegram. To me, I don't see that as so much as a bad thing. There's always other people there to come back and retort and talk about what they think and et cetera. And I think that's healthy. I think that's healthy for a community. But yeah, look, every time we do something and we release news, we see, I would say, very positive reactions. So we've started, and this is very recently, right, but we've started now to try and filter in news, roadmap news, press releases, new products, trying to fine-tune a bit how we release information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All that stuff is still like a work in progress, and we're getting better and better at it. But it's just about, how we release information. I don't want to be less transparent, right? There's been these back and forths about, you say that this is going to happen on Friday. My buddy CR, if you're listening, salute to you. But comes out in Telegram and starts, berating us because we said we were going to have debit cards, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. Yeah, you know why? Because we had a provider that's the date they gave us. And yes, I could come on here every Friday and not say anything. Just sit here and go, mm-hmm. So when people go, what's going on? Oh, nothing, can't say anything, got contracts in place, when something happens. But the thing is that I kind of think that this community is kind of a piece of our ecosystem. And because of that, just like things are shared in the office, we share with the community. I think that's a good thing. I think it maybe make people too spoiled in that they get too much information. But that's kind of how I roll. So I don't know how to roll any differently. So I guess some people just need to step away sometimes. But all in all, having a positive community is a good thing. And I think the more that we communicate, the more we're in there, the more that we're spreading news, the more products, the more listings, the more things we're doing, the more of the things that we do that about, the better it is for everyone. And yeah, that's what we've been trying to do, and we're just going to get better at it. That's it. Okay, so let me move on to Ask Me Anything here. So I'm going to roll in here, scroll up a bit. All right. By the way, guys, again, if you haven't clicked that little happy little thumb, click them, man. Come on. I see 17 clicks, I think, something like that. I'd like to see that up to like 100, You know, just go click crazy. Click crazy. All right. So Crypto TC asking Kev, how is the CSD coming along? When will we see the first glimpse of the marketplace? So CSD is pushing forward on, I think we're about 7 days behind our original schedule, maybe 8. But at the end of this month, we'll look to have the first test run. I think our first issuance, Tangible, that's that Basecamp. Anybody that hasn't seen it, it's basecampniseko.com. BASECAMPNISEKO. Yeah, .com. Something like that. Basecamp Niseko. That is the first project that's done by a company in Japan called Tangible. I have some interest in that company, as does my co-founder here at CoinMetro, Evan. So Evan's the pilot. If you guys have seen him, Evan at CoinMetro and Telegram every once in a while. So that project will be launching sometime in the first part of April. First part of August. Jesus, that would have been quite the soon, right? April. But yeah, we'll be launching in August. Go look at the website. You know, there's still a bit of polish that needs to happen there. There's still funnels and all kinds of things that are going on with marketing to get things staged for that, but that's coming. As far as marketplace goes, I think we'll probably have some type of sneak peek for you guys in 2 weeks. Yeah, so in 2 weeks you'll have something to look at and perhaps give us some feedback. Everything's moving along though. I've seen the latest mock-ups. I talked to the developers earlier today. They're on schedule. We actually did the first push for on Ignium side, the CSD side, to make sure that the actual live contracts are basically in production and that we're able to burn, mint, and create the stablecoin that powers that infrastructure called the IGN Euro. So yeah, things are moving along as expected. News with credit card expectations. What will be their use cases? So debit cards, right? Not credit cards. We won't be issuing credit cards. We're not going to give you guys credit. We're going to give debit cards. You'll have access to the funds you have on CoinMetro via that card. What are the expectations? So there's virtual cards and there's physical cards. There's been this push in the past few years for metal cards everywhere, right? Revolut, N26, everybody's got a metal card, right? Because probably stems from American Express back in the day. American Express actually, before the black card, had the red card. And the red card was exclusive, right? If you had the red card, you were the cool guy in the room. That ended up paying everybody's bill because you were the cool guy in the room. So not sure that really made you all that cool, but anyway. Then they came out with the black card, right? Carbon fiber black card, invitation only. Wasn't all that hard to get invitation, to be honest. Like $5K a year for I think it was $7.5K to actually get the card, $5K a year. That's an easy no, by the way, for anybody with a brain. But anyway, so these things, this prestige in the wallet, right? So this has been a thing, right? It kind of goes against the whole digitalization, Apple Pay, Google Pay, why do you actually need? Now, I've seen physical metal cards now with no data on them. The data sits in your phone. So the card's there for no reason. Just so you can have a piece of metal in your wallet that, makes your spine crooked. If you're a dude. I guess if you're a lady, you just carry it around in a bag or something. Maybe you put it in a wallet and sit on it too. Don't do that, by the way. I've been sitting on a wallet for years and my back is screwed. Anyway, so, this push to metal cards is kind of weird. So, physical and virtual cards, right? Why physical? Some people still like them. Great. Virtual cards. There's a lot of things you can do with virtual cards, right? We're planning things like cashback, for example, where you get cashback on certain services, well-known services. So you pay a certain amount for the card, a very low monthly fee, you can get 3 times that, or maybe even more, in cashback every month by using services you probably already use. Things like, I don't know, taking a taxi or watching a movie online or whatever. You can imagine the service names here that pretty much everybody pays for already. So that will drum up, obviously, I think, a lot of usage for the card. It'll allow us to understand very quickly, accurately, how much money we're going to make on every issuance of those cards, not to mention the additional money we make on transaction fees that are tied to MasterCard or Visa or whoever issues the card, correct? But the expectation is that we can actually do some cool things there with the virtual cards. Cool ways to issue them, cool ways to have multiple cards tied to multiple expenses, cool ways to protect your own identity when making payments. I think there's a lot of things we can do there. Expectation is that when you look at Ternio, when you look at crypto.com, there's a market for these things for sure. And for the most part, that market either requires you to stake $1.5 billion US worth of nonsense tokens, or it requires you to pay exorbitant fees, or it requires you to not get really any perks and you just have a card tied to crypto. So we're looking to better that, and I don't think it's going to be too difficult. Any biz dev this week? Hey Jeff Fuel, I should have known that was you. Always biz dev. Biz dev is always happening. It happens every day, intermediately here, there, and everywhere. We have new listings that we're looking into. We're building out to a specific chain for a specific listing. We have been in talks with different market makers, more payment rails. We've been in talks with, Jesus, what else have we been doing? Bond sales, placements, all kinds of things to make sure that this next push is going to be nice and smooth, especially, like I mentioned, Basecamp and Seiko, guys, tangible issuance coming up at the beginning of August, all through the CSD and CoinMetro in that Montenegro sandbox. And to make that happen, we have almost all the pieces. The one piece that we still have missing is placements, the guy who goes out and sells those bonds. And got a good call coming up on Sunday with somebody who might just be able to get that done. So yeah, lots of biz dev all the time about pretty much anything you can possibly imagine. And I'll rack my brain as I answer a few more questions here to think about if there's anything specific that I want to throw out to you guys there. Rudolph mode this week. I have a shiny nose. Yeah, it's just me sweating under these lights, man. It's brutal. But I'll get used to it at some point. Plus, I'm wearing a jacket, which is probably not the best idea in hindsight. Is Aud going live soon? What about new crypto listings? I think a new Tram copy trader is coming on board too. Crypto TC back in with a couple questions. Australian dollar is on our release candidate right now being tested. We have 2 test transfers en route via Swift to those Aud accounts to test how long it takes, what the fees look like, if there is additional fees to what we already know will be applied to those, etc. So I think sometime next week we might see Aud go live, including probably a Bitcoin pair, perhaps even just after an Ether pair, but definitely Bitcoin. New crypto listings, working on those. No specific news, but we are writing to a chain right now. And I'll give you a bit of a hint. It was supposed to be our first listing way back in the day, and we're looking to list it shortly. New Tram, yep, copy trader. This particular trader wrote books for Wiley & Sons, was worked at Wiley & Sons, was part of the trading disciples at Wiley's back in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. Made a ton of money during the dot-com bubble, and has been trading crypto since I think 2014 or 15, somewhere in there. But one of the best bubble traders I've ever seen. And crypto, my friends, is and probably will be for quite some time, a bubble. So he is onboarded, and now we're just looking at logistics, basically. How will Q3 and Q4 look like for CM? Well, the Q3 roadmap, I saw Oliver working about that on his desk today. So we're going to see that at some point here in the near future. Lots to do, guys. There's lots to do. Basically taking our already world-class system and making it look and feel as world-class as it actually is. So some fine-tuning here and there, taking the UI UX experience that we created, that we've started to create around the dashboard and the markets page, pushing that around all other pages. We have a new homepage, a temporary homepage that's going to go live here shortly. 30 days after that, we're working now on what will be the new design for the homepage. Quite excited about it, actually. It's quite cool. Lots of different things to, again, fine-tune everything, all the inner workings. Obviously, debit cards and all those things are coming as well. USD might be able to squeeze into Q3, but definitely Q4 is something where we're eyeing to get USD live. Obviously, additional pairings, and that includes fiat, if not also crypto, bringing in more liquidity through market makers, starting to do some more unique marketing campaigns that go a little bit outside the box. Your conventional marketing campaigns. We're already starting a new marketing test, which will happen, I think, in the next couple days here, which will push us through Google in the EU, which is something we've been trying to get done. So that'll be interesting as well. I think Q3 and Q4 are going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of things happening on many different fronts, from the biz dev side to internals to even product. And I think our image overall is going to be completely refined. And that's gonna definitely help us. And obviously we're gonna be doing some fundraising. CoinMetro bond is coming as well, guys, in August, probably towards the end of August. That CoinMetro bond is gonna be quite exciting as well. Once the bond is out, we'll have the ability to link rewards into equity, obviously over a 2-year period with that bond, but I think that'll be interesting as well. Basically trade to own. You are trading on crypto, on CoinMetro to own it. And I think that's pretty cool as well. So lots of things. Oliver and TG Group said that you are creating wallet for new coin. Yep, I just mentioned that as well. When XCM will be ready to be used as collateral. Yep, all about liquidity, guys. We had a talk with a company that created systems, algos, for doing market making on the Polish stock exchange, right? They've been providing those algos for the better part of a decade. They now do it in crypto. We're going to test this out. This may be a way for us to market make XCM on our own and provide some needed depth. And if the risk is, we're able to quantify the risk, then we can start looking at things like collateral. But that is a goal, and as I said a bunch of times before, it all ties into liquidity, making sure the book is healthy enough. How are the marketing tests coming along from jet fuel? Will there be a big push at some stage? So there definitely will be a big push. As I talked about, I think I've talked about this before, guys. Marketing, I don't know how many guys out there have experience in marketing, or how many have actually done marketing on a larger scale, or done marketing with budget focused in mind, or, well, done marketing at all, let's put it that way. So I'm not saying I'm a marketing whiz or an executive, right? That's not what I do. But I've run a lot of companies, had to do a lot of marketing. And the best way to do marketing is snowball, man. It's you start with the smallest budget you can to get the most, let's say, the most test data you can. And as that test data grows, and as you start to see an ROI that makes sense, like everything in business, marketing is all about ROI. If you spend 1,000 euros and you get back 800, you failed. If you spend 400 euros and get back 300, you failed. If you spent 50 euros and got back 65, you had some success. Not the right success, but you had some, and you have to improve it. If you spend 50 and get back 150, you're golden. Go ahead and go. Go ahead and spend 300, then 600, then 1,200. You know, as funds come in, spend more. You snowball. You snowball into a larger, doing a massive push without any testing, without understanding. Even if you do small testing and then say, oh, 50 to 150, let's go, let's spend $500,000. Wrong. Definitely wrong. Wrong based on the size of our company and what we're doing. Absolutely wrong. So we need to snowball. And we've started that snowball. We now have a few little snowballs, you know, that we're testing. We're going to have another snowball thrown out there on the next couple of days. We'll see how it We'll see how it rolls, how big it gets. Do some analytics, etc., and then move forward. So, you know, marketing has been constantly happening. Marketing isn't just about throwing a Google ad or throwing out something on Facebook. It's analytics. It's creation. It's making sure that you find the, you know, it's SEO. It's backlinks. It's all these behind the scene things that honestly we should have been doing a long time ago, but our focus was elsewhere. And we simply didn't have a team that was really good at doing these things, and now we do. So it's a process, guys, and it takes time, and it's always going to take time. When the snowball starts to roll, you will see it, you will feel it, you will understand it, right? You saw it with these small tests, and you're going to see it with more tests, and eventually, out of nowhere, it'll be big, but not because we just jump right into some big marketing push. I notice when people joke about when Moon, you say not if, but when. What is that based on? Well, it's based on a very, look, I tell you what, in life, it's the simple strategies that work, right? If somebody writes a book that's 500 pages long that tells you how to be successful, the dude that wrote that book is not successful. I can fucking guarantee you, 100%. You know why? Because things in life, the hardest things in life have the simplest, absolutely the simplest like pathways to get there. The problem is that they're simple, so people try to make them complex. How do you become successful? I can answer that in one sentence. Don't give up. That's it. That is literally how you become successful. It sounds really easy. It doesn't sound that complex. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. Look at every competitor we had from 2018 that did an ICO for an exchange. Can you name me one that's left? Because I'd have a hard time doing it. Do you know why? Is it because we're 10 times better than they are? Is it because we're awesome? Is it because maybe? But you know why it is 100%, regardless if we're better or not? It's because we didn't give up. That's why we're still here. So that's why. It's never about when. If you want something in life, and I'm not talking about this stupid book like The Secret. Don't fall into the trap of, you know, the universe will give you something if you want it. No. Everything takes work. Everything takes dedication. Everything takes sweat, blood, tears, all that good stuff, right? But at the end of the day, if you don't give up, you reach your goals. That's it. Simple. What exactly happened to this new partnership that you had to drop off at the last moment? Well, basically what happened is they promised one thing, and they lied. Simple as that. We are going to do this, 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 and that, and they did something completely different that we could do ourselves and save a ton of money. So I'll give you an example of something similar. I went on a roadshow once. Guy at the roadshow says, we're going to bring in quality investors. I have a list of investors that have invested $250 million in projects in the last 6 months, and those guys are going to come to see you, and we already have 20 people confirmed. There's only room for 30 in the room. I thought, wow, great. Then I was online that night, and I happened to go on Eventbrite, and guess what I saw? I saw an advertisement to come see the presentation, and it was free. So this guy told me he had 250,000 people, or a list of people that invested 250 million in projects. He put it on Eventbrite. I could have done that, and obviously charged me to do it. So that was the end of that roadshow. So similar thing happened here. You're of the opinion, this is from Fergus, regulators are going to be clamping down on Binance and clones like Bidesk. Do you have a timeline when these will be forced to pull back on their chalky, unregulated services? I wish I had a timeline. I can give you a general timeline. That timeline started when, let's say, those companies began operations, and that timeline is generally 3 to 5 years for an investigation to become public. Now, in some circumstances, it takes less time. You can look at Bitfinex and Tether, news today that came out, tying in Brock Pierce there as well. You can look to see that that took about 2 years, but the investigation hasn't really started. They've now given the go-ahead to open up an investigation. These things take time. They take time in traditional, they take probably more time in crypto, right? I can tell you that anybody that I know that's been in any regulated industry, even outside of finance, I'm talking pharmaceuticals, so anything, will tell you that any unregulated business that deals in what should be a regulated, it should be a regulated business, or should be, underneath an umbrella of regulation, will eventually feel the heat and will have to adapt or die. And the problem with finance, most regulation, is that it's almost impossible to adapt depending on what you've done over the course of not being regulated. So I can't give you a timeline. If I could, then I would already have my shorts on the futures market, but I can't give you a timeline. Nobody can. But as you can see, the U.S. in particular, who usually leads the most public kind of flogging when it comes to regulatory movements around the world, has started to put the SEC has put some teeth into a few things, some low-hanging fruit that it knew it would be able to tackle. The CFTC has gotten its name mentioned a few times. New York State Attorney General now has started the game, and those are the big dogs, right? So Southern District of New York, racketeering, the RICO statute, all those things, Southern District of New York. You really don't want to have a case brought by these guys. They're talking about they're doing an investigation. They usually don't investigate unless they think there's a case, and if they think there's a case and they bring one forward, they usually win. So I would say that it's numbered. We just saw news about 2024 in the US. I would say before that happens, before the US has comprehensive regulation that is released, or right along the same time, you'll see many actions happen along these lines. So on Parsec Telegram group, they integrated with Bitsgap and righted that they asked them to integrate with CM. Can you tell something about this? Yeah, so I know the owner is Bitsgap. It's a great guy named Max. Bitsgap basically parses pricing from a ton of exchanges and allows you to use one interface to trade across all those exchanges, though you do have to have money at each exchange. I think in the future they are looking to become a true aggregator. And we talked to them about integration. Their schedule was too full. But eventually we'll get there and they'll integrate us. Apart from a few percentages extra in interest, is there any benefit of buying in the primary sale versus the secondary market? Primary buyers risk the price dropping on the secondary market. Well, first of all, there won't be, if they're not sold in the primary, they won't exist on the secondary. So if there's less sold in the primary and then they go into the secondary and there's demand, price will rise, not fall. Keep in mind, however, this is an interest-bearing product. Most of the time for bonds, prices don't change. They don't fluctuate. If they fluctuate at all, they don't fluctuate much. And normally, you have to understand that when they fluctuate, your interest changes, right? If the price of the bond drops, the issuer is paying interest based on the issuance price. Here, the issuance price for tangible, for example, will be 50 euros. So if the price is 50 euros and you get 5% a year, and the price goes to 25 euros, you're getting 5% on 50 euros per bond, which is 10% of 25, right? So normally what happens in that case with bonds, and the same thing, if it goes higher, you're actually making less interest on your money. So what happens, that usually regulates the market, meaning that there may be price fluctuations for a very short amount of time, but generally the market will fluctuate back up towards that $50 level because simply people, when it goes low, are making better interest. When it goes higher, are making less, so it tends to float. So, and again, if there's a limited amount sold in primary, those are the only bonds that will be available in the secondary. So if demand were to kick in, the price will inevitably go higher, which would give you less interest for a specific amount of time before it's sold off, so that interest is back to normal. Hi Kev, would it be possible to have AMAs faster released on YouTube after you have the live session? Often I have to wait till Saturday, which is difficult. Yeah, I guess it's potentially possible, but I'm not the one who does it, so I'll have to see if that's, but yeah, I guess it's possible. We'll see what we can do. Any news on new listings? We talked about that. We only got a few minutes. I'm going to try to see what I'm finding here. Yeah, Byzantine fault tolerance was already explained. I knew it, Euros. Jesus Christ, I knew it. Somebody's got to pull up that video. It's going to be funny if I said two different things. With your new banking partner, you will be able to add new coins you want. Yes, essentially. We're still going to vet them from our side. So obviously, it's not just a list whatever we want type of thing, but we don't need to generally pass them through the banking partner. There will be push in marketing. Surely the media and regulations will rally around the release and endorse regulated exchange moving forward, kill off all this wash trading. I agree. I think it's inevitable. It's just when. It's not if, it's when, again. Forehead looks amazing today. Appreciate that. I don't know what qualifies as an amazing forehead day, but I'll consider today an amazing forehead day, and I think that's good enough for me. Would you consider doing some crypto chart technical analysis on the show? This would really help bring in more viewers. I could do that. You know, I used to teach technical analysis. Not the funnest thing in the world for me. Then I'm going to get like Tone Vase coming in, and he's going to try to compete with me and stuff. And then, then we can have like a worst haircut competition. I mean, I'll win that for sure because Tone's hair is a fucking mess on the best days. Just bought 50K, awesome. When XCM will hit €1, will you make a party for XCM contributors? Sure. Why not? Digibyte. Somebody said Digibyte. Did somebody say Digibyte? Somebody said Digibyte? Digibyte was mentioned. Somebody said Digibyte? No comment. How will you link new fiat currencies to XCM? Will there be separate books? Initially, new fiat currencies, they would have to feed into the same book initially because there's simply not enough liquidity to spread around. We do a synthetic to feed into the book. Exactly, read debit cards. I use the Apple Watch phone to pay for goods now. Yep. Are you not afraid that interest for Ignium, despite a great idea and concept, will not attract investors? Because in my opinion, more exchange clients need to be brought in, as only a small percentage of relatively small user base will be interested in this. No, look, it's a B2B. Ignium needs to prove a concept. The concept is you connect to one centralized settlement hub and you create liquidity that doesn't even exist in the traditional market. We prove that, and I think we'll have a problem answering all the interest that's there for Ignium, to be quite honest, because nothing like it really exists. There's things that exist that act like pieces of Ignium, but I haven't seen anything that actually does what Ignium does and has the vision of about cross-border global settlement that Ignium has. We got 28 people. I see 28 thumbs, guys. What do you call this icon? It was thumbs up. What do you call it? The thumb? Come on, man. Let's get that up to 40 at least. You know, I feel like Pac-Man. I was like, start eating some thumbs. U.S. could trip a bit by the time CM gets listed with the amount of money the feds are printing. USD could trip it. Look, I'm not going to go. I don't have a lot of time. We're already over, and I got a call. But I'm going to finish these couple questions here. Hyperinflation will never exist in the U.S. market in my lifetime. So don't worry so much about the USD tripping up. Even though this whole corona lockdown economic pandemic is just something that I didn't think I'd really ever seen in my life. It's like something out of a really shitty movie. That if I saw the movie, if I saw what's happening now in a movie, I'd leave the movie theater thinking, what a fucking stupid movie. So yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. But even with all that, again, what I said before, the most difficult things in life are usually solved by the simplest answers. U.S. monetary policy on the surface is really simple, right? It's like burn, mint, burn, mint, burn, mint, right? 8% of taxes right now go to pay off the interest on the debt. Even with the new debt, the 8% still pays it, guys. They can easily increase that to 12% and have another 50% to go. They can increase it to 16. In fact, they could reduce several of the larger pieces like Medicaid, Medicare, which they've already done over years in the past, and just destroy the debt. I mean, 10 times what it is now. Maybe not 10, 5 times. And still be able to pay the interest on the debt. Still be able to pay the interest on all the debt. So, moving on. Could you talk shill to new users why CSD will be game changing? Yeah, I could. I did that. I think I did that at on another show, but I'll give you a quick breakdown. So traditional markets suck, right? When I say traditional markets, I mean your NASDAQ, your FTSE, your CAC, your Dow, etc. And then your small markets like A Milan, which is a stock market for smaller companies, basically. Or your First North, same thing we have here in the Baltics, which is tied to NASDAQ in the Baltics as well. They suck. They're hard to get listed. It's expensive. The liquidity is segmented. It's siloed. There is, if I told you, have you invested in the First North market? Anywhere except maybe Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. Maybe Finland. People would look at me and go, the what? If I asked you, to be honest, if you asked an American, most Americans, have they ever invested in a company on the CAC or the FTSE? They'll be like, what, you dirty bastard? I think at the end of the day, you need to understand that generally capital markets as a whole are segmented, they're hard to access, and there's very little liquidity unless you're talking about the major markets. And even when there is major liquidity, there's so many steps you have to take to get involved in that market outside of the country where it's based that many people just can't do that or don't go through the process. So what a DLT-based CSD does, what Ignium's looking to do is make a cross-border, means you can go from country to country, instantaneous settlement. You don't have to wait 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 weeks, 8 months, which can happen, to see a settlement clear when you buy a security. It happens instantaneously and you're done. And you can do that with any company, no matter where they're based around the world, no matter where you're based. And you can start with remedial amounts of money. That's the goal. Why is that big? Well, that opens up small companies, large companies, all companies, even people to basically raise funds through all types of different, not just SAFT agreements, which are a joke, but real actual bonds, convertible bonds, meaning debt. You take on some debt. Or you can even start to make more complex instruments that allow you to raise money in many different ways. You can do equity, you can do all kinds of things. You can do it in a tokenized manner. It can be fractionalized. People can get into it from all over the world. It basically reduces this kind of bottom to top flow of capital, which happens in all capital markets. Capital markets are made, guys, to take your money and give it to rich people. That's how capital markets work. Capital markets are made so big companies come out, take your money, flows up to the top. Government is now pushing money into the capital markets to overinflate the capital markets so that you, the little guy, put all your stimulus checks back into the capital markets so they can tank the market and take the money back. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So this has happened many, many times in history. It's something that happens because of the centralization of markets and the way markets are structured. We need to get away from that. CSD, CoinMetro, Ignium, CoinMetro, Tangible, CSD, MTF, Montenegro. That's the solution. Thank you for your time, guys. I'm a bit over. I got to get on my next call. I appreciate everybody this week. I think we got the camera set up pretty good this week. I had an awesome forehead day, according to somebody, so I feel good about that. And a little bit of a shiny nose. So I guess those two kind of equal each other out. We'll call it a neutral day. Shiny nose, great forehead day, neutral. Thanks, guys, for showing up. Appreciate everybody sending in their questions. If I missed your question, tag me on Telegram at Kevin MURCKO. You can tag me on Twitter or tweet me on Twitter at Kevin MURCKO. I'll answer your questions there. Make sure you keep on giving those thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. And be on the lookout for kevinexplainscrypto.com. We're going to be launching that soon. Go have a look at it now. Take a quick look. Going to be doing lots and lots more video content that you guys will be able to thumb up and subscribe to. So see you guys next week. And as always, say hi to your friends and family. Take a step back. Stop looking at prices. And of course, like you do every weekend after you've had a beer, a coffee, or whatever, sitting out in the shade, sitting out in the sun, buy some XCM because it's just going to make you feel better. Have a great forehead day. The only way to do that is buy an XCM. So you just got to get it done. You just got to get it done. Pass on the word. Anyway, guys, cheers. Have a great weekend, and see you soon.